Now, we think it's important that we start today by acknowledging that we live and work on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. My name is Markus Moos, and I'm the director of the School of Planning and an associate professor here in the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. And I'll be one of your hosts for today. And again, my sincerest welcome to what I know is one of the most exciting parts of your lives to start at undergrad. Today's agenda includes introductions to the School of Planning, expectations and common questions. We're going to cover some important course information, provide you some tips for success, and have a student panel Q&A, question and answer. We're looking forward to connecting with all of our new environment students today. If there are any parents or supporters joining us today, we want to point you to a few resources that are available specifically for you. We know the important role you play in your students' transition, and so we encourage you to sign up for our Parent and Supporter monthly newsletter. In this newsletter, you will receive useful tips and information on supporting your students throughout their first year here at Waterloo. There will also be parent and supporter live chats that you can attend in the month of August. And we'll put a link in the chat box now where you can find out more about how to take part in this event or sign up for the newsletter. Now, a few housekeeping items. On your right, on your screen, you will see a chat area. If you can't see this chat area, click on the circle with the chat bubble. This is where you may ask any questions that you have for our panelists today. You will not have access to audio for today's event, so all questions will need to be submitted here. When asking a question, please make sure that you're submitting questions to all participants. You can select that, as this allows everybody to see the questions that are being asked. And we will compile the questions, and our panelists will answer them verbally during the Q&A at the end of the presentation. There may also be some links shared along the way. Be sure to only click on links that are shared by the Ask Us panelists. If you do have a personal question or you're having technical issues, you can ask the Ask Us panelists by selecting them in the drop-down menu in the chat feature. So on that note, I think it's time to get started.
Excellent. So good morning, everyone. I am going to do additional introductions today. I am Professor Jennifer Dean, and you have just met the school's director, Professor Markus Moos. You will see both of us in the classroom, whether it's virtual or in person. We also are very happy to have one of your new best friends in the School of Planning. So this is your undergraduate advisor. This is Miss Tiffany Chen. Tiffany, can you give us a wave? Thank you. And then we also have 3 of our senior students here today to act as panelists, to answer some of your questions and also to share their experiences and their perceptions throughout the presentation today. So Sydney, I'm going to ask you to give a little wave. There's Sydney and Mandy. Hi, Mandy, and Ash as well. There's Ash. Fantastic. So we have some specific questions that we're going to answer for you today. These are common questions that almost every cohort of incoming students have for us. So the first is, what are those main differences between what you've experienced in high school and what to expect now in university? What we expect of our Waterloo students? Any important dates that you should know and that should be top of mind for you as you get started in our program? And also what courses will be like in fall 2020, especially what's going to be unique about the online environment. And then we are grateful that our students will share with you some of the information that is going to be really helpful for you to succeed in the program. So are some of the primary differences between what many of you have experienced in high school, especially high school in the province of Ontario, compared to what you'll experience the first year at university? It's common that for many high school courses that you took, that there was very limited preparation that you needed before class because your teachers taught most of that material to you while in class. Sometimes homework was assigned. I think some schools probably have a lot more homework assigned, but overall there was limited amount of independent work that you may have been required to do in high school. So in university, it's expected that you're going to prepare before the lecture. And each of your professors will let you know how you can best prepare for those lectures. Most often, it's going to be asking you to do the readings before the lecture so you're prepared. We focus on teaching you the main concepts in class. So regular studying and reviewing of materials outside of the classroom is definitely necessary on your part. Especially in planning, there's going to be a stronger emphasis on working in groups, and this is often done outside of the classroom. So in comparison to high school, where maybe 80% of the learning was done in class, in university, 20% is done in class, and 80% will be completed independently. Other major differences between high school and university would be the total number of hours that you spent in class, because so much more of your work is required independently outside of the classroom. Class sizes, of course, are going to be much different. So while you may have had a class that capped out around 30 students in high school, in university, the class size would be much larger, closer to 300 students. The learning environment is far less structured in university. Our full course load is 5 courses, and the focus is more so on tests, exams, and assignments versus some of the homework and projects that you may have done in high school. The expectations are, of course, very high, and it's common that first-year students see a drop in their grades, where many of you, in order to get into this program, had an average in the 80s or above. It's common for the averages to drop during that first year to the low 70s. I wanted to ask our students here today, Sydney and Ash and Mandy, to speak a little bit about some of their differences, some of the main differences that they experienced moving from high school to university. So Sydney, maybe we'll start with you.
Thanks, Jennifer, and hi, everyone. So in my experience, staying connected to my peers was a huge component of that first year transition. So, you aren't necessarily spending time with your high school friends anymore, right? So it's super important to create that network, right? And in my experience, I lived at St. Paul's, where a lot of other planning students lived in first year. And, we always helped each other with assignments. We worked on certain tasks together appropriately, walked to class together. And it was a really great way to understand concepts while talking with peers. And it genuinely made me feel, more comfortable in the program. And although this year is a little different, I really recommend reaching out and making those connections so that you do have, peers to talk to and talk through concepts and understand things a little bit better. And I'll pass it off to Ash now.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so for my experience between high school and university was that I found time management was really important. Unlike high school, where you're in the school building from, let's say, 9 to 3, in university, you could have maybe 1 or 2 classes in a day, and then you might have the rest of the day off. So it's really important to manage your time, to get all your course prep done, finish all your assignments in between time, in between lectures. That was crucial. I'd say, yeah, being really self-disciplined to make sure that you could complete everything on time was really important, because you have to manage other stuff like doing groceries or any other activities or clubs that you want to participate in. So that was the biggest challenge for me, I'd say. And I pass it on to Mandy now.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. For me, I would say like the main difference between high school and university would be the independent learning. Definitely. The onus is on you to ensure that the concepts, you understand all the concepts that the professors are teaching. So even though it is a little bit intimidating, sometimes do ask questions. I am a true believer of there's no such thing as a dumb question. And if you ask the question, you are 100% going to benefit other people in that class. So yeah, ask questions. And if you're too shy to ask them in lecture or in front of others, then just email a TA or the professor and they will send an email back with all your answers. But yeah, that was my main differences.
Thank you, Mandy, Ash, and Sydney. And I'll just echo that. Certainly I can speak for Professor Moos and myself because in person, our offices are next door to each other. So we often are very excited to have students come visit us during office hours. Our doors are open. We are very happy to chat about the questions that you have. And we're not scary. We don't find ourselves intimidating. So we welcome you to come. And that's the same in the remote environment, which is where we're transitioning for the fall. So of course, this is a major concern for many students, incoming students, as it was for our current students who had to switch online in winter of this year, as well as the spring term. So all of your first term courses, so your fall courses will all be offered online. Your primary lectures are going to be asynchronous, which is a term you'll become familiar with. This means that it's just offered, it's not offered live. And so sometimes it may be recorded and you can go look at the recording after the fact, or it will be posted online and you're able to watch and view those materials at a time that's convenient for you. Everything that you need to access will be available through Learn, and you already have access to Learn now. You should become acquainted with it as you're moving through the Waterloo Ready program. The other aspects that are important are meeting people in the program. So we will have a series of orientation activities as well as social events will be offered online, and this is a great way to meet other people in the program. As all of the students have just shared with you, it is a challenge to develop the motivation and self-direction that's required as an undergraduate student. And I would say that this is especially important as you are working remotely for this for the first term of your program here. Waterloo Ready has lots of resources for you, and we'll talk about more of them later in the presentation today. One of the major perks of the remote environment that many of my students appreciated this summer term was their ability to access material at any time. So some of them had to work, some of them just worked better and liked to study later at night, some liked to study better earlier in the morning, and so they could access their materials and complete all of the components at a time that was convenient for them. So other aspects that will be different, Mandy, Ash, and Sydney already spoke to these. The academic tasks I outlined earlier, but also there's going to be some challenges for life tasks. And this will, of course, depend on whether or not this is your first time moving away from home. This will depend on whether you're going to continue working from home for the fall term, but there are many other life tasks that you'll need to balance. When I recall my first time moving out to university and I knew 4 meals on my own. I'm embarrassed to share that publicly, but I only knew 4 meals. So that was a very quick rotation of those meals to get through an entire week. So, you'll have to remember to plan those 3 meals a day. Balancing part-time jobs and volunteering while at university may be something new for many of you. Balancing some personal time and making sure that not everything that you do 24 hours a day is school, studying, and work. That's not at all sustainable. And then, of course, sleep, laundry, and spending time with your friends are all important in addition to the academic tasks. So I am going to pass this over now to Tiffany to talk a little bit more about the expectations of a planning student.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now that you know some of the differences you should expect coming from high school, we will talk about the expectations of a planning student. So you know that the University of Waterloo offers many degrees. Some are honors, some are general, as well as co-op or non-co-op degrees. And planning is a 5 years honors co-op degree. So as a planning student, you will need to complete a minimum of 20 units. And on the side, in the chat, we will be sharing a link to the glossary of terms to help you understand what unit means. But basically, unit means the credit value associated with the course, and most courses have a unit weight of 0.5. You really just need to remember that in a typical study term, you should be taking 5 courses or 2.5 units to stay on track and to meet this minimum requirement of 20 units to graduate successfully. And then we will also be sharing a link with you that I encourage you to bookmark and review at your own time. So the undergraduate studies academic calendar. Yeah, so that page is your official resource to review your planning program requirements. And it also has a clear breakdown of what courses you should complete in each year of your study. On to the next few points, your average requirements. So planning students must obtain a cumulative overall average of 65%. So this includes all the courses you'll take throughout your undergrad and a minimum of 75% in your major average. So this includes all the plan and EMBS courses that you'll take. So again, you will need a 75% average for all planning and EMBS courses. The next point talks about during your first term, you will also be taking Plan 102, the Professional Communications course, and it must be completed with a grade of 65% or higher to meet the undergraduate communication requirements. Now, onto your co-op requirements. The link that was already shared about your co-op requirements, it provides an overview of your co-op plan requirements. So basically, there are 3 parts to it. So there's your job placement, your PD course, and a work term report. So planning students must complete a minimum of 4 of each, and you will have 5 co-op terms to complete it. But you should definitely aim to complete all 5. This is just the minimum requirement to graduate with a planning co-op degree. So all of this is really important for you to understand to ensure a smooth progression in the program and to really make sure that you're on track to graduate with your cohort. And I understand that this might feel like a lot of information, but remember, you can always refer to the links online, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me, I'm your academic advisor. If you have any questions about the program, I'm here to help, and I'm happy to walk you through anything that still feels unclear. So on this slide, you will see your program sequence. So on the left-hand column, you will see year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at the top row, you will see fall term, winter term, and the spring term. And you're all currently getting ready to start your 1A term in September. And you will see that your first work term, or work term 1, isn't until your year 2 of your spring term, right? Which is May of year 2022. So I know some of you might be feeling unsure of what to expect for co-op, but I just want to assure you that we will have lots of time to help you feel prepared for your first work term, okay? And you'll also see that we've indicated here that our lovely 3 upper year students that are in the chat with us today, Sydney, Ash, and Mandy, they're all currently doing their 4th work term. And at this time, I like to invite them to share a bit about their work term experiences. So if you can each wait on me to call on you to start sharing, and I guess I'll start with Sydney first, please.
Thanks, Tiffany. Yeah, so I had a lot of really great experiences with my co-op. So my first one was very unique. I taught English in China, and what an amazing experience that was. This is also a good example of how you don't necessarily need to work in your field on co-op. You know, you can also explore interests. I then had an opportunity to explore private and public sectors of municipal planning, both of those in St. Catharines. And through those, I learned just a ton about the profession. They made me a better planner and more ready for my career post-graduation. So those were fantastic experiences. Now I'm a community engagement coordinator for the school, and I'm primarily helping out with student engagement. So you'll probably see me frequently until the end of the summer. And if I had to give you maybe one piece of advice to take with you throughout the co-op process, it's to be confident and communicate effectively. And this sounds a little vague when I say that, but one of the reasons why I got my first planning co-op job is because I reached out to the company ahead of time and expressed my interest in working with them. And through this, they promised me an interview, and then it was up to me to impress them. And I got the job. So yeah, take risks and reach out. And I'll pass it off to Ash now.
Thank you, Sydney. Yes, yeah, Ash, if you could go next, please.
Hey everyone. So before, well, something like an upper year student told me when I was in first year was that in the first summer off, you should try and find a job, and if you can, like find something that's planning related if possible. So I was fortunate enough to work in my first summer off with the town of Oakville in the bylaw enforcement department, which was sort of related to planning in a way, and that really set me up for my future co-op placements because I had relevant work experience. So my first co-op work term was with the city of Mississauga as an employment surveyor. Then for my second co-op, I moved to Calgary and I worked in the private sector with a startup planning consulting firm. That was a great experience as I learned so much and also learned planning in a different province and a different city. And then my third co-op, I came back to Ontario. I worked for the town of Milton and did some policy planning. And right now I'm working with UW as an online learning assistant where I've been working along with some of the professors and creating some of the courses that you would be taking in first year. And now I can pass it on to Mandy.
Thank you, Ash. Yes, sorry, just one quick note. Definitely, I would encourage you all to participate in at least one out-of-province work placement to gain those really valuable work experience as a planning student. Yeah. Thank you. And last but not least, please, Mandy, if you could share your work experience.
Yeah. So I did kind of the same thing. So in my first summer off, I also worked at a municipality. I worked for the region of Halton as an employment surveyor. I feel like that might be a very common job because in my first work term, in my second year, I actually worked same position, but for the region of Waterloo. And then for work terms 2 and 3, I did work in the private industry, which did give me a lot of insight, a lot of things that I did not learn within the program. I learned during these co-op experiences. And then currently, I am an RA research assistant at the University of Waterloo, working with Jennifer and helping her with some of the research projects that she's doing. And I would kind of add on to that, I would say the biggest challenges that I kind of faced when applying for co-op would be job applications. Most people do apply to like a high volume of jobs, so you do have to manage your time to ensure that you're able to apply to all the jobs that you want to, and you will have to eventually learn, and you will have a lot of support while doing it, especially with PSA and the Center for Career Actions. They give a lot of resume critiques and a lot of support for co-op, and you'll eventually learn how to tweak your resume for specific jobs and specific industries. So very overwhelming, but you'll eventually learn it, and confidence is key when you enter a interview.
That's great. Thank you all so much for sharing, and I hope we were able to give you something to take away with you. And now I believe on to Sydney for the next slide.
Thanks, Tiffany. So, hey everyone again. This slide is all about first year courses. So here we have two columns, the first being your fall courses and the second being your winter courses. So when you start this September, you'll be enrolled in that first half. So you've got evolution of planning, professional communication, that's your English requirement that we mentioned earlier. You've got perspectives on planning, introduction to planning analysis, and introduction to environmental studies. So these are really great introductory courses that focus on the broader concepts of planning and really introduce you to those foundational and essential theories and approaches to planning that we'll need to know as planners. And these will set you up for your upper year courses designed to maybe focus in on different areas of planning. And you'll notice that the course code for Introduction to Environmental Studies is ENVS, not PLAN. So this is going to be a larger class that might include students from a number of different programs within the Faculty of Environment. So many students will complete this course as one of their foundational courses for their studies because it's just very relevant across the faculty. And if we move on to that second column in your winter term, you'll notice at the bottom that you've got 2 elective slots in your course selection. So electives are a really great opportunity to explore your interests, and we really do encourage that, especially being that planning intersects with so many different disciplines, right? So, maybe you want to explore the planning specializations that we have to offer. So, there's specific courses that you'll need to fulfill. Maybe you want to take a political science course to complement your degree, or, maybe you want to hone your writing skills. So you might want to take a couple of extra English courses. So yeah, really take that opportunity to explore your interests. I also want to bring your attention to Plan 110. So this is an interesting course. It's your first exposure to urban design. It's a very popular route that students take in planning. And in this particular course, you'll start using programs like AutoCAD, SketchUp, and these are huge components of the profession. So yeah, this is your first course. It's really exciting, and I hope you enjoy all these courses, and I'll pass it back to Tiffany.
Thank you, Sydney. So in this slide, we'll talk about important days. And universities work with very, very strict deadlines, so it's important for you to understand what they mean. And we are sharing the link to our list of important days on the side. And I also encourage you to bookmark this page and just keep notes of these dates and make it a habit to do so for each term. And for this fall 2020 term, there are a few important dates that I'd like to mention here. So this fall, classes begin on September 8th. That's very important. Be sure to attend every lecture. And the next is the last date to add or to swap a course is September 21st. But you shouldn't worry about this because you should have received my welcome email telling you not to worry about adding your 1A core courses because we've got you covered. And next is the last day to drop a course with no penalty is September 28th. So a few things to discuss here. Dropping a course means you are requesting to not take the course anymore. And so you will have no longer have access to the course materials once it's dropped from your schedule. In each term, there are deadlines after which you may not drop the course from your schedule without penalties. So dropping a course in the fall before September 28th will not result in a penalty, and you will get 100% of your tuition back. And the first penalty period starts from September 29th. So if you drop a course on or after this date, you will receive a WD on your course record. So WD means you withdrew the course and no credit was granted. And there's no numeric grade associated with the WD record, so your average will not be affected. But the next penalty period, which starts on November 24th this term, if you drop a course on or after this date, you will receive a WF. So WF stands for withdrew/failure. This means no credit was granted, and you will receive a numeric grade of 32%. So for the course you drop, this failed grade, which is the lowest grade that you can receive for a course, it will be counted towards your average, okay? And as a side note, so a fail grade is any grade lower than a 50, and a passing grade is any grade higher than a 50. Okay. I also want to make sure that you know where to find the important dates page in case you lose the link. So it's available on the Quest website. So not within the Quest system, but on the Quest website under Information for Undergraduate Students. The first link you see there is the important dates. And these dates are also loaded into Portal, which we will talk about later. And now Professor Jennifer Dean will walk you through the next few slides.
Great presentation. I would also really appreciate if all of our attendees today can tell us where they are currently. Where in the world are you from? So many of our students come from the Greater Toronto area. I grew up in Brampton, so I'd really love to know where all of the attendees are, and we will talk a little bit more about your hometowns when we get to the question and answer period. Okay, so one of the main concerns and questions that we get about the fall term is about online lectures. The Waterloo Ready program has many resources for you to help you understand and be prepared to move to a remote and online learning environment. So I wanted to highlight some of these aspects specific to the School of Planning. There's always going to be some form of weekly lecture per course that you take. If you have a full course load, that's 5 courses. And there's going to be a combination of delivery options available to the professor. So every course is delivered. There may be commonalities, but the delivery choice and content is always determined by the professor of that course. And so they may be using narrated PowerPoint slides. They may have a video presentation. So there are a number of different ways in which our faculty members are going to be delivering the content to you. They will let you know the format of that in the very first lecture that you have. There will also be activities to reinforce your learning. And those may be discussion posts throughout the week using the online forum. It may be listening to podcasts or watching related media clips, giving real-life examples or case studies to reinforce your learning. As I mentioned earlier, this predominantly will be asynchronous learning. There may be some synchronous elements, so live elements in your courses, but they will always be recorded so that you can view them at a later date. If you're, again, working or you're not available at the time that the synchronous element is being offered, that you can go back and watch via recording. I know office hours are often synchronous, so this summer I had office hours on Wednesdays from 1 to 3 using a web tool, and so students could come in and ask questions of me. If that didn't work, we used chat boards and we also used email. So there'll be many options to connect with your instructors. Your evaluations will also be online. So this may be discussions, as I mentioned. It may be tests or quizzes, and certainly through assignments. So most of your assignments will be all of your assignments will be a blend of individual or group work. And so we have tools and file sharing tools and communication tools for you to work in groups as well. And those will vary based on the course that you're in. Your instructor will let you know all of the information specific to their course on the first day of class. Tutorials and labs are a really common supplement to lectures in university. Because many lectures are quite large, so upwards of 300 students for some of them, that it's really difficult for you to get and intimidating for some to ask questions. So most classes have smaller leading times for groups of 25 to 40 students. Again, an opportunity to reinforce learning using a tutorial format where there's teaching instruction from teaching assistants who are majority graduate students in our program. Alternatively, there are also labs for other types of courses, which is hands-on activities that allow you to practice the skills that you have been taught in lecture. These tutorials and labs are also mandatory, just as the lectures are. They will all be delivered online this term based on the course. And some TAs in many cases will be available during synchronous sessions. So you may have those live sessions available as well, and your instructor will let you know the first day of class. One of the really key documents that you will receive in each of your courses is the syllabus or the course outline. So this is in essence a contract between you as the student in the course and the instructor in university. So it's going to include all of the relevant course information, the instructor's name, their office hours, how you can best get in touch with them. It will also include the description of the course, the key objectives of the course, and the required readings that you will need to get your hands on, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Most importantly, it talks about the evaluation structure in the course. So how will you be assessed for meeting those learning objectives? That will be detailed on the course syllabus. There are also some really important institutional statements that are required on each of the syllabi that you'll receive, and these will be common across your syllabi. But because it's a contract, the expectation is that you have read all of these. I know it feels like it is redundant when you have 5 courses with the 5 same statements on it, but it's really important that you read through them. And these include issues related to academic integrity, student discipline, student appeals, accommodations for religious reasons, for mental health, as well as notes for students with disabilities or issues relating to accessibility. So please make sure you're taking the time to read through the course syllabus and the course outline. Excuse me. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to Sydney to talk a little bit more about tips for success from a student perspective.
Thanks, Jennifer. So yeah, tips for success. Like we mentioned, university is different from high school, and it's likely that some parts of university might be more challenging for you. Some of you might feel a little bit uncertain about your academic ability, especially now that we're experiencing a pandemic, or compare yourself to someone who looks like they might have more free time with you. This is completely normal. You are all very bright. You've worked hard in high school and got accepted into a school that requires a high average for admission. So you are now surrounded by peers who have worked equally as hard as you are and are also very bright. And if things get really tough and you don't feel like you're coping well, please reach out to someone. The most important thing to do is to connect, whether that's with an advisor, a friend, an upper year student, your dons, parents, peer mentors. We have a lot of support for you. So who can I ask for help? So this slide is all about your academic support. And we have many sources of support outside the classroom. And it can be challenging to know where to go for, but even if you start somewhere and it isn't where you're looking for, someone will help you find the right place. So just a bit of a recap, there's always help. We want you to know that you're not alone when things get tough. There are many resources, and asking for help is a sign of strength. So we really encourage it. So on the left side, you see that we have our program advisors. So your program advisors are a fantastic resource, like we mentioned, and will always have the information you need. So again, this is Tiffany Chen. If you ever have questions that a prof and lecturer might not be able to answer, try talking to your program advisor. They'll help you make decisions and will help you guide you through those decisions. So for example, my program advisor was the first person I spoke to when I was interested in studying abroad. So they kind of directed me to all the important channels that I need to ask and get forms signed and everything like that. So she was super helpful with guiding me through that. And then on the right, you have academic and life skills. So please go to your professors and TAs. It is sometimes intimidating, especially as a first-year student. You're not super comfortable asking questions, but they really are here to help with your academics and your social life. So feel free to open up. Student Success Office. So there's a lot of resources within the Student Success Office. To name a few, there's peer success coaching. So with this, you would have an opportunity to book a one-on-one appointment to create a plan and explore learning strategies. There's workshops. So you might want to attend an activity-based workshop to learn how to, for example, take better notes. We also have the MAD Lab. So this is a resource that supports mapping, analysis, and design. That's the MAD acronym. It's a great place to go for help, equipment loaning, to use equipment in the house. Right now, the Mad Lab is physically closed at the moment. However, if you take a look at their website, they do have access to lab computers remotely. So that's also a resource for you. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So now we have social support. So on the left side, you'll see social. So we have a ton of opportunities for socializing at Waterloo. And because of COVID-19, we're really trying to facilitate that online environment. So you see there's WUSA, the Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association. They'll be running clubs and services. We have PSA, so the Planning Students Association. This is your student association, so they're going to be running events. They'll be a great resource to talk to. They're also your friends, so reach out and join PSA too. And then we have Environment Student Society, which is similar to planning, but it's more so covers all of the faculty of environment. And then we have a ton of wellness resources that we will provide you links for and that you can also find on the website. So the first one being counseling services, and I am just a huge fan of counseling services. So if you are interested, I recommend reaching out when the term begins. I know there could be wait lists, so that's why I recommend hitting the ground running on that regard. There's also health services. So this is super convenient, especially if you don't have a personal health insurance plan. We have athletics, recreation programs, and clubs. So I know that you can access free workouts, free virtual workouts. That's really cool. The Glow Center is support for our LGBTQ+ community. MATE kind of has like a one-on-one peer support program. They are currently operating via Skype, so that's also really interesting. We have the Waterloo Indigenous Student Center, which is located right in St. Paul's, and the Women's Center. So yeah, a lot of really fantastic resources, and I definitely recommend spending time exploring them. And again, we have lots of links to share with you, so please make sure you check those out. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So seeking balance. In university, and especially now that we're experiencing such a pivotal period of time, it's important to seek balance between school and your personal life. And, you know, we want you to succeed in university, but we really believe that your personal well-being contributes significantly to that. So some of the points we want to talk about is how, for one, more work doesn't necessarily create better results. So with this, don't overextend yourself. Research and creativity tells us best thinking comes during breaks in work. With that said, schedule time for fun. For example, I split up my day with physical activity. I do yoga in the morning before work. I try to squeeze in a 30-minute walk on my lunch hour, and then I throw in a home workout after work. So for one, it wakes up those muscles and it keeps me physically stimulated, but also mentally stimulated. And I like taking that time to reset, so these activities really help me with that. This is the only time in your life you will be surrounded by people your age with similar interests and comparable schedules. So even though we can't be physically together or not for a little while, we are planning social engagement activities for you, and we really encourage you to reach out to your peers. And yeah, just explore those things that you enjoy. So, you know, please take time for yourself. And if Ash and Mandy would like to share any tips that they have for seeking balance, I'll call on maybe Ash first and then Mandy second.
Yep. So what I like to do is, I'm sure Sydney and Mandy do the same, is mark your calendars with all your tests and assignments. And these are usually laid out in the course syllabus, so you know all the due dates ahead of time. By doing that, you're able to plan your week ahead and schedule in, balance your life with all your academic and social activities. So when I'm on campus, I'm pretty involved with a lot of stuff. I'm involved with like intramurals since I play soccer a lot. I've done soccer, ultimate frisbee intramurals, and then there's a bunch of clubs and student societies you can be a part of. The Planning Student Association is a great one. Be involved and get to know upper year and even lower year planning students. And even if you're not involved with, if you're not on the association helping planning some of these events, you can attend all these events as planning students. And same with ESS as well. And when things come back to normal and when we're all on campus, yeah, explore the Waterloo region. Like everything's pretty accessible by the LRT. You can even walk around to nice parks and trails. So I really encourage all of you to do that. I guess, Mandy, you could share your experience.
Yeah, thank you. I am also a huge advocate of like exploring KW. I feel like a lot of our students usually stay on campus or within that area, and like this region is so bountiful with so many things. So yeah, definitely take a look outside of the university area. Tips for work-life balance. Mine, other than like also scheduling like everything in my life, I usually have to plan my week at the beginning of the week to know what everything that I have to do. So I will make to-do lists for every day saying like, these are tasks that I need to do in order to feel productive and be productive. Another thing that I do is creating a space for study and work, and also creating a space to relax and not have to think about school or work or anything like that. And I guess my last tip is ask for what you need. Professors, they know so many things, but they cannot read your mind. If you need an extension or like support or any additional items for your academics, definitely reach out to them. They are not scary people. They are human too, and they totally understand what you're going through. So if you need anything, do ask them.
Thanks, Mandy. So the next slide, stay connected. So learning the online systems that Waterloo uses is definitely going to be important for your success. And these are a couple of our big ones, our main ones. So Quest is where you're going to pay tuition, enroll in courses, see final grades, request transcripts, all that kind of stuff. Your Waterloo email address will be the main form of communication that you have between yourself and professors and staff. And you'll find yourself using the Waterloo email more and more as you progress through the program. So for example, I use it for all my co-op, work communications as well. So that's super important. The UWaterloo portal, the digital portal. So this is something that Tiffany mentioned earlier, and this will connect you to anything from volunteer, extracurricular activities, to campus food options, bus schedules. So the portal is a really great resource to find those other little things that you might have questions about. And then last but not least, we have Learn, which will house all of your online course content. It will be your submission system for course assignments. It'll likely be where you will be posting discussion posts. So this will play a big role. They'll use Learn a lot. So this next slide, it's all about student success in first year. And this is definitely going to be different as we're all virtually together, but there's some things that you can definitely do that will help guide you through this unique experience. So for one, creating a network of friends and staying connected in your virtual community is super important. And I'll be talking in a couple of slides about a good way to do this, but we really encourage you to participate and grow that network. Seeking out information when you have questions. So again, there's just a ton of resources available to hopefully answer all of your questions. Again, Tiffany Chen is a fantastic resource, our undergraduate program advisor. And then your professors and TAs, like we mentioned earlier, also us and your peers. We could help you out too. Attending classes, labs, tutorials, and office hours. So this year is different. Again, we have the more asynchronous lecture structure, while virtual labs and tutorials might be held online, but attend and participate. We really encourage it. Knowing your course requirements and faculty policies. So all of these can be found online. We have really great explanations of all of these things that you can find, including the course requirements as well as those faculty policies. But if you seem to be struggling with maybe finding a piece of information or you just can't find it, talk to your undergraduate advisor. Talking to friends, family, or seeking out resources to talk about struggles and success. So if you are struggling and you might end up finding yourself that's going to happen, we really encourage you to reach out. We do have a lot of great resources to promote and share with you, so please do. And also talk about your successes, because we would love to hear what's working well and how we can maintain that. We can go to the next slide, perfect. So this is our last slide, and I just want to talk a little bit about Environment Waterloo Ready. You may have already heard of this. There have been some emails been sent out and some promotional items been sent out. But overall, we know that the transition from high school to university can be one of the biggest changes you'll experience as a student. And we also know that in this year in particular presents its own set of challenges as you navigate an entirely online learning system. So all of you have been enrolled into a Waterloo Ready course in a learning platform called Learn, which is what I just mentioned earlier. And this will help you address some of these unique challenges. So when we think about your academics in particular, you'll have access to content spaced over several weeks. It'll help you develop important academic skills and strategies such as maintaining focus, avoiding distractions in a remote learning environment. That's definitely a difficult task for a lot of us. Preparing and organizing for classes, so what to do before, during, and after lecture, engaging with course content, understanding the expectations and time demands of your faculty, and where and how you can find help and support when you need it. So I know we keep telling you we have all these resources, and it might be a little overwhelming, seeing all these links come in. So hopefully this program will help you, see those a little bit better. So I have 3 steps for you. They're a little bit vague, but this will get you access to that environment Waterloo Ready. So you're going to log into your Learn account, and you want to use your new UW email, and then you'll be able to access these modules. And within this Waterloo Ready, we have a peer mentorship program. So we have a lot of upper year students who you will be assigned to as a peer mentor. And these are great resources to ask for anything academic, social, and they're really there to help you throughout the term. So yeah, definitely check out Waterloo Ready, explore what they have on there, log in to Learn, and yeah, see what that's all about.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sydney. We are going to dedicate the time here to answering some of those questions that came up through the chat box. And so I'm just looking at these questions, and I am going to ask Tiffany to answer the first 2. So Ashley Ann asks a question. She says, are we required to take all 5 of the courses in first year?
Yes, so thank you for asking that question, Ashley Ann. And yes, so all 5 of your 1A courses are mandatory, and they're required courses for you to fulfill the planning degree requirement and to really gain those foundations to be successful in your future courses. However, if you require accommodation, such as doing a reduced course load, that is possible, and I am happy to set up a one-on-one meeting with any of you to talk about what that looks like.
Thank you, Tiffany. And then Ivy and Adwa have similar questions. So they're about how do you specialize within planning, and what are common minors that planning students take?
Yeah, so definitely it's very common for planning students to customize their degree by minoring in something or specializing in something. And a popular minor for planning students is the Geography and Environmental Management minor, so the GEM minor. And it's very easy to specialize in planning, but you will need to follow a checklist, and you will need to plan early. So again, I'm happy to walk you through that process if anything is unclear.
Thank you, Tiffany. I have a great question here about where do we buy textbooks? So this is a wonderful question. We have the W store, which is our print and retail store on campus, but it's also open online, especially now. And so you will have your instructors listing the required textbooks and readings on your course outlines that you'll get at the beginning of term, but many instructors will submit their required readings to the bookstore to order. And so if you go to the bookstore, there is a catalog there, and you can look up your course codes, and they'll tell you if you have assigned textbooks, and you can order them directly from the bookstore. So W store, and I see the chat is already populated with the link. So Edwin has a great question. Are there other job boards associated with Waterloo other than Waterloo Works? So I'm going to ask Sydney to speak to that really briefly.
Yeah, so within Waterloo Works, there's a number of links for other job boards that you can look for. They're not necessarily associated with Waterloo, as in there's a partnership between the company. However, we do try our best to provide you with all those resources. So, I think there's one called the Angel List. I think there's one called Campus Connect. So these are all other programs that Waterloo recommends that you look through. Those ones, you have to look on your own. It's not necessarily as tailored as the Waterloo Works program is. So there are those listed within Waterloo Works, but look everywhere. Something that I do a lot, especially since I'm on a co-op term until the end of December, is I'm on Google Jobs a lot. So I'll type in student planner in Ontario, and Google Jobs will give me a bunch of things to look through. LinkedIn Jobs is also something to take a look at. LinkedIn is, a very great resource to use for that kind of thing. So yeah, they're not necessarily associated with Waterloo, but there are a lot that you can explore.
Thank you. I know that Waterloo Works is our official supported job platform, but as Sydney and others mentioned, I think Ash mentioned this early on, that students can also find their own placement outside of the Waterloo Works system and then bring that to the Center for Career Action and Education, and they will help support that. You'll learn a lot more about that in your first year. There are other questions about, Callum is asking, are the tutorial sections running this term beyond the lab for Plan 105? So again, this depends. You will have your TAs and you will have some version of tutorial sessions, but it's dependent on your class. And so some classes may have synchronous meetings with TAs, or you may be assigned a TA and they will have office hours, so you can pop in and out of their office hours, and they will be dedicated to just a small group of students. So instead of 200 students asking one TA a question, there'll just be 25 students assigned to a TA. So Callum, that will really depend on your instructor and the specific course. So I'm going to ask Ash and Mandy to speak to this. Is Waterloo a fun city? This is from Omer.
I can go first.
Sure.
Oh, do you want to go first, Ash?
No, you go first.
I think that Waterloo is a fun city personally. I think kind of the key with that is being able to build a community outside of school and seeing people around KW that you know, and there are a ton of small local businesses that you can chat with and get to know the owners and stuff like that. So I 100%, I think that KW is a fun city or like a region, but other people might have different opinions. What do you think, Ash?
Well, yeah, I agree with you, but it really depends on student. Like you can make any city fun. It's really up to you and what your interests are. There are a lot of nice restaurants and bars in Uptown Waterloo that you can go to. Like Waterloo Park is a nice place to go for a walk. Even Victoria Park in Kitchener. So it's really up to you and where your interest lies and what you want to do. So I just say go explore. You'll find stuff.
Great. Thank you so much. And at this point, we're already at the end of our time. So my apologies to those of you who asked questions that we didn't get to answer here, but we will answer them in a frequently asked questions page that will be circulated to you afterwards. So I wanted to thank all of you for attending and participating. This is recorded, and you can go back and watch it on your Waterloo Ready Learn course site. Just remember to never click any link that was not posted. Do not click a link that was posted from someone other than our Ask Us panelist. And as a reminder for your parents or other supporters who have questions, be sure to have them sign up to receive the monthly newsletter and to tune into one of our parent and supporter live chats. These are taking place August 5th or August 11th. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to Tiffany Chen, who you met today. Her email's posted in the chat box. So I really look forward to virtually meeting all of you in September, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. Take good care, everyone. Bye.